everyone, I'm Soraya. Thank you so much for joining me today. So in this video, I'm going to show you a painting that I start from the beginning right through to the end. It's not a very long video, but I want to show you step by step, and it's for beginners. So if you have any questions along the way that I don't address, please leave a comment for me. I am happy to answer any of your questions. So let's see what happens. I'm starting today with a 24 by 24 inch gallery wrap canvas. I'm starting off with this dry sponge, which has been used but washed. It's very old. I put some gold, and I'll show you all the colors at the end. The canvas, I just put a little bit of water in the back because it seemed to be moving a bit. So I'm just going to start. I have this idea, and I'm going to see if that's going to work. And this is gold. And I'm going to mix some of the black with that. I want it pretty dramatic. So I have learned from experience that it is better to have kind of an idea of how you want the painting to look like. It doesn't have to end up looking exactly what you thought. It could change along the way, but if you give yourself that first idea of how you think it's going to look, it'll be better in the long run, especially if you're a beginner. And this is just Mars Black. So I'm telling you the colors that I use as I go along, but at the end I'll show you the brand names as well. So if you want to go out get them, you'll see exactly what I'm using. By the way, I'm not sponsored by any of the companies. I just use the paints that I like. I like the combination of black and gold. I actually love it. I think it's very striking, modern. And I haven't used gold in a long time, so I saw this tube. I don't have that much, so I'm just gonna do what I can with what I have to create something beautiful. I'm gonna continue on adding. And now I'm just adding a bit of titanium white here, just to make things interesting. This is the original sponge that I used at the very beginning. I haven't changed it up. If I need to, I can use the other side of it, but so far it's the one sponge. Now this is very different because this is very warm and this is cool because of the black that was in the sponge. And so I'm going to add a little bit more gold here. I hope I don't run out. I don't have that much. I do like mixing colors right on the canvas as long as it doesn't get muddy looking. Okay, I've turned the sponge around and I put on some buff. It's called titanium buff. And I'm going to put that on top of here. I'll show you again all the colors that I'm talking about. Oh, that's pretty cool color. It's a neutral color, obviously. It's kind of a light beige. A little goes a long way. And I'm pressing hard on the sponge. Adding a bit of this ultra matte medium. The paint was in the tube quite a while and it seems to be a bit gummy. So I want it to flow a little easier. And I'm adding a bit of white on top of that. So I find it really is up to the individual artist to find that creativity and work towards that vision that you have at the beginning. When you're first starting, you want to have it look a certain way. So this is what I try and work towards. Whenever I started painting, I go for that vision in my head. Along the way, I may change things up depending on, you see, I made a kind of a little mistake there. You change it up and maybe it's something even better. creating these beautiful colors, these beautiful neutrals. I shouldn't say colors, because that's not really a color. This is a bit of Van Dyke Brown, which is on the same sponge that I started off with. So I'm gonna do a little bit of it here. I'm just kind of building on what I have here. Then I'm gonna go back to the bluff. It's actually supposed to be buff, not bluff. And then back to the white. Now I've always loved contrast, so that white against that dark really works for me. It gets me excited. It makes me feel like there is something exciting going on in the painting that draws your eye there. So I always try and create an area where I can have that contrast. I'm liking the way that's looking now. I like that little bit of gold in there. Cool. This area here looks a little dirty, so I'm just going to clean it up just a little bit with a bit of the titanium white. Might have to go over that a bit. So the brush really helps me to gain a lot of control over the area that I want. I can cut down a sponge to get in there, and you can do that as well. If you don't have brushes or you don't want to use brushes, but I just find that it's very easy and I'm very comfortable using a brush, and so that's why I did that. Okay, I'm liking the way that looks, and especially this area, so I'm going to kind of make it look as if that gold is running underneath by adding it here. Just had to switch sponges because that one was a bit muddied up. So got a new sponge here and adding that gold. So for the beginners, anytime you're using a sponge and you're going color on top of color, oftentimes it will muddy up the color. So the color won't be pure. It won't be pure white. It won't be pure gold. And that's what I mean by muddied up. And so that's why in this case, I wanted to switch to a brand new sponge where I can add the pure color on the sponge that had nothing on it. This was the Van Dyke Brown here. I'm not sure that I like it now. On top of that, I tried it with this. I'm gonna go back to the white on here. So I'm gonna add the white on the original sponge and go over this area. Don't like those. That's better. It just softened up those awful ends there. So whenever I find that there is an area that looks kind of raggedy, not very finished, not very polished, if you go over it with a little bit of white, it softens the whole thing up, and I find that it is really a good technique. What a difference that made. Okay, since I did that dark, I'm going to do the same thing here. I just have the black with a bit of gold. I need more gold. I just added a bit more gold on my sponge. Now I'm getting into the titanium bluff color. So I guess bluff got stuck in my head because I keep saying bluff, but it's not, it's buff, B-U-F-F. And a bit of the white with the gold. That's already on the sponge. Just adding just gold. So if you're a beginner, what I suggest is doing what I'm doing here, using minimal colors, 3 to 4 colors max. These colors blend well together. You kind of can't make a mistake. And at the beginning, it's all about the technique and learning it. I've turned the sponge around and added some of the white and just adding that along here to finish that off. Now I'm using titanium white. It's a super white. I like the contrast. I like the way it looks against the dark colors, and that's why I like using it. But you can go softer. There's other whites along the spectrum that you can use, a more softer white, creamy whites, whatever you like, but this is what I've been using. If you get it soon enough, you can almost scrub off the bottom color or blend it. Maybe it's not scrubbed off, it's just blending it easier. When I'm adding paint to the sponge, I don't add a lot. I never do, unless it's a really huge area. This is kind of a small canvas, so I haven't been adding very much. Usually it's just small amounts, and it's amazing how much of that paint gets into the sponge, and you can press hard and it comes through. I'm going to work on this area here and kind of back to the dark. Squeezing the sponge. Oh, I got a bit of white. I should use that. Let's just do that. So there's a lesson. Don't be afraid of mistakes in quotes, because you could always change it up. To me, it's paint. You can always go over paint. It's all right if something doesn't go exactly as you thought it was going to go. Sometimes the best things that happen to me at the time seem like these big mistakes, and if you work with it, you let your imagination go, it really ends up being something very beautiful. So don't worry about those little mistakes. Be very relaxed when you're painting. So I do implement that. I am very relaxed as I am painting. I do find that I'm not hearing anything around me. I'm not seeing what's happening. It's just me, the paint, and the canvas, and I get lost in it. I get lost in the creativity, and you need to strive towards that. If you find that you get distracted, just concentrate on your painting. Don't worry about it. If something goes wrong, you can always change it. As I go along, I am adding layers of colors, and I do step back and I take a look at the overall effect of what I am doing. Sometimes I get lost in the details of the painting, in a corner, in a section, and I tend to kind of overlook what is happening overall. But when you step back, you can see the whole painting, and it's important to know what the composition is looking like as you are painting. Just continuing on those same colors. So for all the beginners, I established a focal point right at the beginning, and I find that that is the easiest thing to do, is to have an idea of where that focal point is, and the focal point can be a different color. It could be an object that is smaller or different than what is around it. I have a whole video talking about focal points, and I'll leave a link to it here. But the focal point has been established, and then when I paint, everything around the painting is pointing to that focal point. I just have the titanium white and the buff titanium on here now. And a little bit of the brown on here. Warm it up a little bit. Now, for some reason, there's certain areas in a painting that often give me a hard time. It's not always in the same section, it just happens to be a certain area that I'm working on. I'm not sure what happens there. Maybe I get too picky, but I go over it and work on it until I'm happy. Whoops. Thought I would just clean this up just a little bit with my brush. Doesn't need much, it's not bad. All right, so I'm sorry, but I was painting and I didn't get it on video, but I just got my small brush, the one I used before, a little bit of paint, and then just kind of went over these areas. It was a little scraggly and didn't like it, so that's what it's looking. So here are the colors that I used: Amsterdam Van Dyke Brown, Amsterdam Titanium Buff Deep, Pebeo Studio Iridescent Gold, Liquitex Mars Black, Artist Loft Titanium White, the Liquitex Matte Medium, it's Ultra Matte Medium, 2 sponges, one mostly, and one little brush. That's it. That's the colors I used. Okay, so I think that was it. Just that little bit at the top there that I really wanted to clean up those edges, and I'm loving the way this looks. Just incredible what basically 5 non-colors, neutral colors can create this beautiful abstract. I really love it. I think it's stunning. It is very dramatic, but it's got the contrasts that I love. So I'm very happy with the way that is looking. Now I do have up close images coming up, so watch out for those. And click on the link you see now. I've got lots of tutorials if you want to learn how to create a painting with a sponge.